Hello friends! In this video I'm going to introduce, as you saw in the title card, slices, list slices in Python. So I'm going to start by just creating a list with a bunch of numbers. So we'll say L1 equals, we'll just start with that. And just to get us oriented, let's look at the list. And as you probably know, you can look at a single item in the list by specifying its index. And in this list, it just so happens that every item is the same as its index, which makes it a little bit easier to think about as we're working through this. Now, you can get a single item like that, but let's say you wanted to get a subset of this list, or a slice as they call it in Python. Well, we can get a slice starting at a certain index like this. And when we omit the number after the colon, it's going to simply include everything up until the end of the list. If we wanted to specify a beginning and an end, it would look like this. And notice that what it's doing is it's starting at the first index, and it's going up to, but not including, the second index. So when we specify the slice 3 to 5, it's going to include items at index 3 and 4, but not at 5. And we can also omit the first number, and it will start at the beginning of the list and go up to, again, but not including the last or the second index. And we can include a third number, and if we omit the first two, it might look like that. What does that mean? Well, the numbers that are omitted are going to take us from the start of the list to the end of the list, but this new value that we've included means that it's going to count by 3. So it's going to start at index 0, and then it's going to skip 1 and 2, but it will include 3, skip 4 and 5, include 6, and so on. So let's see what we get. Just what I was hoping, 0, 3, 6, 9. So it's giving us, in this case, just the values that are divisible by 3. And that's sort of happenstance because it started at 0. So we could have started at 1, and it would have given us 1, 4, 7, for example. Let's just check that theory, make sure I'm not talking out my neck here. Yeah, good. That's what I was hoping to see. And now let's try something that you might not expect that Python would allow you to do at first. Let's take a list slice, for example, this one that we did a second ago. Or even, actually, you know what, I'm going to say let's do this list slice. But let's assign it a value. So let's say I'm going to assign every third value in the list foo. Is this going to work? No, it's not, but I'll explain why in a second. So we get this value error. Attempt to assign sequence of size 1 to extended slice of size 4. In other words, I'm trying to replace 4 items, those would be at index 0, 3, 6, and 9, with only a single item. How can I replace 4 things with 1 thing? I can't. Now, because of the error message, I know that I need 4 of them. But let's do this a little bit more correctly. Let's look at the length of this slice. We know it's going to be 4 because of the error message we just saw. But, okay, now I've taken the length. I know that there are going to be 4 items in that slice. Or I could do it, you know, if I were writing a program, this would be a good way to get the length of that slice. Now that I know what it is, I'm going to use that information. So I'm going to start the same way. Oops. And I'm going to do this, but I'm going to add times 4. In Python, if you take a list and you multiply it by a value, it will repeat that. And I could actually have several values here. In fact, let me do this a little bit differently. So I'm going to say foo bar. And first of all, let me just go back here and say, well, what is this doing? If I write this code, what does that mean? I could have just written foo times 4, foo in square brackets times 4, and it would have given me a list with foo 4 times. But I can also, as I am going to do right here, specify 2 values, multiply it by 2, and it's going to give us again 4 values, but it's going to be foo bar, foo bar. Alright, excellent. So now I'm going to continue what I started like this. I'm going to say create a list. Now it's going to have 4 items in it, and we can assign these 4 items to the 4 items in the list at indexes 0, 3, 6, and 9. Let's look, and there it is. Index 0 is foo, then we skip indexes 1 and 2. Index 3 becomes bar, skip 4 and 5. Index 6 becomes foo, skip 7, 8. And index 9 becomes bar. Playing with list slices in Python. I hope you found this short video useful, and I will see you next time.